The question of God has haunted humanity since we first gazed up at the stars and wondered why we exist at all. It's a question that emerges not from answers we found, but from the very nature of who we are as conscious beings walking through this mysterious world. This ancient inquiry seems to arise spontaneously across cultures and centuries, suggesting something deeply embedded in our human experience itself. Think about it for a moment. When did you first wonder about something bigger than yourself? Perhaps it was during a quiet evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. Or maybe in a moment of deep loss, when everything familiar seemed to slip away. For some, it might have been standing in a crowded temple, feeling simultaneously small and connected to something vast. For others, it could have been a moment of unexpected kindness from a stranger that felt like grace itself touching their lives. This contemplation doesn't begin with religious teaching or philosophical study. It starts with something much more fundamental, something woven into the fabric of our consciousness itself. It emerges from our capacity to step back from immediate experience and ask not just what is happening, but why anything is happening at all. We are at our core meaning-seeking creatures. Unlike other animals who live purely in the present moment, we humans carry this peculiar burden and gift of awareness. We see patterns where others see chaos. We create stories to connect the dots of our experience. We look at a mountain and don't just see rock and earth. We see majesty, permanence, something that speaks to our souls about endurance and strength. This symbolic thinking is what makes us uniquely human. A tree isn't just a tree to us. It becomes a metaphor for growth, for life reaching toward light. Water becomes purification, cleansing, the source of all life. Even the simplest objects in our daily lives carry layers of meaning. A photograph becomes a doorway to memory. A song becomes a vessel for emotion that words alone cannot hold. We can't help but layer meaning onto everything we encounter because meaning is how we navigate existence itself. It's how we make sense of joy and suffering, how we find purpose in routine, how we connect our individual experiences to something larger than our personal story. But here's where it gets interesting. In our search for ultimate meaning, we encounter something that doesn't quite fit the pattern of other answers we find. God, whatever we understand by that word, doesn't function like a solution to a mathematical problem. Instead, God operates more like a question that keeps opening up new questions. When we say we believe in God, we are not really claiming to have figured something out. We're acknowledging that there's something about existence that remains beautifully, mysteriously beyond our complete understanding. It's like standing at the edge of an ocean and realizing that no matter how much we learn about water and waves and tides, the ocean itself will always be larger than our knowledge of it. This recognition brings both humility and wonder. We discover that the most profound questions don't demand immediate answers, but invite us into deeper contemplation. The question of God becomes less about finding a final solution and more about learning to live gracefully within the mystery itself.
This becomes even more profound when we consider our relationship with mortality. Every human being at some point becomes acutely aware that this life, this consciousness, this sense of being ourselves is temporary. We watch loved ones age and pass away. We see our own bodies change over time. We realize that everything we build, everything we love, everything we are exists within the boundaries of time. This awareness often arrives in unexpected moments. Perhaps while holding a newborn child, we suddenly understand both the preciousness and fragility of life. Or while sitting beside someone in their final hours, we feel the weight of impermanence settling into our bones. These moments strip away our usual distractions and bring us face to face with the fundamental uncertainty of existence. This awareness of impermanence creates what we might call existential anxiety. It's not just fear of death, though that's part of it. It's the deeper, unsettling recognition that if everything ends, if consciousness simply stops, then what was the point of any of it? Why do we love so deeply if love ends? Why do we create beauty if beauty fades? Why do we seek truth if truth dies with us? In the face of this anxiety, we find ourselves reaching towards something that transcends the temporary nature of our existence. We long for connection to something eternal, something that gives weight and meaning to our brief time here. This isn't necessarily about wanting to live forever, though that might be part of it. It's about wanting our lives to matter in some lasting way, to be part of a story that continues beyond our individual chapters. And here is where the relationship between humans and God becomes particularly fascinating. When we examine what different cultures and individuals mean when they speak of God, we often find a reflection of their highest values and aspirations. The God we imagine tends to embody the qualities we most admire and wish to cultivate in ourselves. If we value justice, our understanding of God emphasizes divine justice. If we prioritize love and compassion, we see God as the source of infinite love. If we struggle with forgiveness, we imagine a God who forgives completely. If we yearn for peace in a chaotic world, we envision divine serenity that surpasses all understanding. In many ways, our concept of God becomes a psychological mirror, showing us not just what we believe about the universe, but what we believe about the best possibilities within ourselves. This mirroring process reveals our deepest longings and our highest aspirations, making visible the qualities we hope to develop and the person we hope to become. This doesn't diminish the significance of God. It actually makes the relationship more intimate and meaningful. When we pray or meditate or simply sit quietly with thoughts of the divine, we are engaging in a conversation with our deepest values and highest aspirations. We are connecting with the part of ourselves that wants to grow, to love more fully, to live with greater purpose and meaning. But this raises a profound question that philosophers and theologians have wrestled with for centuries. Are we discovering God or are we creating God? When we experience what we call the divine, are we encountering something that exists independently of our minds, or are we generating a powerful psychological and spiritual experience through our own consciousness?
Perhaps this question itself reveals something important about the nature of reality. Maybe the distinction between discovery and creation isn't as clear-cut as we might think. When we create art, we often feel like we're discovering something that was already there, waiting to be expressed. When we fall in love, we feel like we're recognizing something eternal, even though the relationship is clearly something we're building together. The relationship between humans and God might work similarly. We might be both creating and discovering simultaneously. Our consciousness, our capacity for meaning-making, our ability to experience awe and transcendence, these might be the very tools through which something larger than ourselves becomes accessible to us. In our quiet moments, when we feel connected to something beyond our individual selves, we're participating in one of humanity's oldest and most profound conversations. We're engaging with questions that have no final answers, but that keep opening us up to deeper ways of being human. Whether we call it God, the universe, consciousness, love, or simply the mystery of existence itself, we're touching something that connects us to every human being who has ever looked up at the stars and wondered. We're part of an ongoing exploration of what it means to be conscious beings in a vast, beautiful, sometimes frightening cosmos. This exploration doesn't require us to have all the answers. In fact, it might require us to become comfortable with not knowing, while still remaining open to wonder, to growth, to the possibility that there's always more to discover about ourselves and the reality we inhabit. In the end, the philosophical relationship between humans and God might be less about solving a puzzle and more about learning to live gracefully with mystery,
finding meaning in the questions themselves, and allowing our search for the divine to make us more fully compassionate human.
The question of our relationship with God has puzzled humanity for millennia, weaving through every culture, every philosophy, every quiet moment of personal reflection. From the ancient temples of India to the modern meditation halls of today, this profound inquiry has shaped how we understand ourselves and our place in existence. Tonight, let's explore this profound connection with gentle curiosity, allowing ourselves to breathe deeply into these ancient mysteries that still shape our modern lives. When we think about authority and order in our relationship with the divine, we're really asking ourselves a fundamental question. Does God serve as the ultimate source of social control and moral framework? Many traditions suggest that divine authority provides the bedrock upon which human societies build their structures. Think of it as a cosmic blueprint where moral laws and social order flow naturally from a higher source, much like how the seasons follow their internal rhythm without question or resistance. This divine authority doesn't necessarily feel oppressive when we approach it with understanding. Instead, it can offer a sense of security, like knowing there's a steady hand guiding the ship through stormy waters. Consider how children feel safe when they know their parents have established loving boundaries. The moral framework that emerges from this relationship creates boundaries that, rather than restricting us, actually provide the safety within which we can flourish. It's similar to how a riverbank doesn't imprison the water but gives it direction and purpose, allowing it to flow with grace and power towards its destination. Throughout history, we see this pattern repeated across cultures. The ancient Indian concept of dharma, the natural order that governs both cosmic and human behavior, illustrates how divine authority can feel less like external control and more like alignment with the natural flow of existence. When we understand our place within this larger order, our actions become expressions of harmony rather than mere compliance. But here's where things become beautifully complex. When we examine God and moral orientation, we discover two distinct paths that humans have walked for centuries. There's the command-based approach, where moral guidance comes through direct divine instruction, clear and unwavering like lighthouse beams cutting through fog. Think of the clarity found in sacred texts, where specific guidance illuminates the path forward during moments of confusion or doubt. Then there's the conscience-based path, where the divine speaks through our inner voice, that quiet wisdom that emerges in moments of stillness. This is the gentle knowing that arises when we sit quietly with a difficult decision, allowing our deeper understanding to surface like bubbles rising naturally to the surface of still water. Neither approach is superior to the other. Command-based ethics offer clarity and certainty, providing specific guidance when we feel lost or confused. It's like having a detailed map for a difficult journey, complete with landmarks and clear directions. Conscience-based ethics, on the other hand, invite us to develop our own moral intuition, trusting that the divine spark within us can illuminate the right path. This approach requires more patience with ourselves, more willingness to sit quietly and listen to that gentle inner voice that speaks in whispers rather than shouts.
Many people find themselves moving between these approaches depending on their circumstances. During times of crisis, the clarity of command-based guidance can feel like a lifeline. During periods of growth and exploration, the gentle nudging of conscience-based wisdom allows for more personal development and deeper understanding. Now, let's gently explore what happens when we consider humans without God. This isn't about dismissing faith, but rather understanding whether meaning and responsibility can exist independently. Some find that even without a traditional concept of God, life still holds profound meaning. They discover purpose in human connection, in creativity, in the simple act of reducing suffering and increasing joy in the world. Like artists who find meaning in their work regardless of whether anyone is watching, these individuals create significance through their choices and actions. The question of responsibility without divine supervision is particularly fascinating. When we remove the idea of a watchful divine presence, do we become more or less accountable for our actions? Some argue that true moral responsibility actually increases when we act from internal conviction rather than external oversight. It's like being honest because someone is watching, versus being honest because honesty aligns with who we choose to be. The latter requires a deeper level of self-awareness and commitment to our values. Consider how some of the most compassionate acts in human history have come from people who acted purely from their own sense of what was right, without any expectation of divine reward or fear of divine punishment. Their goodness emerged from something deeper than external motivation, something that seemed to spring from the very core of their being. This leads us to one of the most intriguing concepts: God as consciousness itself. Rather than thinking of God as a separate being, what if the divine is the very fabric of awareness that allows us to experience anything at all? In this understanding, every moment of consciousness, every flash of recognition, every gentle realization is a direct encounter with the divine. The very fact that you can read these words and understand their meaning becomes a sacred act. This perspective transforms our entire relationship with existence. The morning light streaming through your window, the taste of tea on your tongue, the feeling of understanding when reading these words all become sacred experiences. God isn't somewhere else, watching from a distance, but is the very capacity for experience itself. It's as if consciousness is the canvas upon which all of life's experiences are painted, and we are both the artists and the artwork simultaneously. When we consider God as witness, we encounter another beautiful dimension of this relationship. Here, the divine presence isn't about intervention or control, but about pure, loving observation. Imagine having someone who sees you completely, understands your struggles and joys, but doesn't rush in to fix everything. Instead, this presence simply holds space for your experience, offering the profound gift of being truly seen and accepted exactly as you are. This witnessing presence provides existential comfort without removing our agency. We are not puppets being manipulated, but rather conscious beings whose experiences matter deeply to the fabric of existence itself. Every choice we make, every emotion we feel, every moment of growth or struggle is witnessed with infinite compassion and understanding. It's like having the most loving grandparent imaginable, one who sees all your mistakes and victories with equal tenderness.
The question of whether our relationship with God represents an interpretation of reality or a direct connection touches the very heart of human experience. Perhaps both perspectives hold truth. Our minds naturally interpret and make meaning from our experiences, so any encounter with the divine will inevitably be filtered through our human understanding, our cultural background, our personal history. We are like people looking at the same mountain from different angles, each seeing a true but partial view of the whole. Yet many people report experiences that feel undeniably direct. Moments when the boundary between self and divine seems to dissolve completely. These experiences often come in quiet moments, during meditation, in nature, or in times of deep emotional openness. They feel less like interpretation and more like recognition, as if we are remembering something we've always known but temporarily forgotten. It's like suddenly recognizing a melody that's been playing softly in the background of our lives all along. The beauty lies in recognizing that both interpretation and direct connection can coexist. Our human minds will always seek to understand and categorize our experiences, and that's perfectly natural. But beneath this interpretive layer, there may indeed be something more immediate, more direct, more intimately connected to the source of our being. As we conclude this gentle exploration, let's rest in the understanding that our relationship with the divine, however we conceive it, is ultimately about love, connection, and the deep human need to feel part of something greater than ourselves. Whether through authority and order, moral guidance, conscious awareness, or witnessing presence, this relationship offers us a way to navigate life with greater meaning and purpose. The questions we've explored tonight don't demand immediate answers. Instead, they invite us to remain curious, to stay open to mystery, and to trust that our sincere seeking itself is a form of connection with whatever divine presence moves through existence. In this gentle inquiry, we find not just philosophical understanding, but a pathway to deeper peace and more authentic living.
The question of God has haunted humanity since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if someone was looking back. Tonight, let's explore this ancient relationship between the divine and the human, a bond that shapes how we see ourselves, our suffering, and our place in this vast universe. When we think about God and freedom, we encounter one of the most profound tensions in human existence. Are we truly free if an all-knowing God already knows our choices? This isn't just theological speculation, it's deeply personal. Every time we make a decision, we are wrestling with this question of control versus surrender. Consider the parent who watches their child make mistakes, knowing they could intervene but choosing not to. There's love in that restraint, a recognition that growth requires the freedom to fail. Perhaps divine freedom works similarly. God's gift of autonomy comes with a cost, both for us and perhaps for the divine itself. We get to choose our path, but we also bear the weight of those choices. The cost of this autonomy becomes most apparent when we face suffering. Here, our relationship with God becomes complicated, even confrontational. When pain strikes, when injustice prevails, when innocent people suffer, we find ourselves in what philosophers call the problem of theodicy. How can a good God allow bad things to happen? But there's something beautiful in our ability to protest against suffering, even to God. The biblical Job didn't just accept his fate quietly. He argued, he questioned, he demanded answers. This moral revolt against undeserved pain might actually be one of our most divine qualities. It shows we understand justice, that we expect better from the universe. Some find comfort in explanations, in the idea that suffering serves a purpose we can't see. Others find strength in the protest itself, in refusing to accept that pain is somehow deserved or necessary. Both responses reflect different aspects of our relationship with the divine, different ways of maintaining faith in the face of darkness. This brings us to another tension, the choice between God as comfort and God as truth. Sometimes what we need to hear and what we want to hear are very different things. The comforting God offers solace, promises that everything happens for a reason, assures us that we are loved unconditionally. The truthful God might be more demanding, asking us to face difficult realities about ourselves and our world. Many of us oscillate between these two needs. In moments of grief, we might seek the comforting presence. In moments of growth, we might need the challenging truth. Perhaps wisdom lies in recognizing that both aspects can coexist, that comfort and truth aren't always opposites. The way different cultures perceive God adds another layer to this complexity. What feels like divine truth in one society might seem foreign or even wrong in another.
The Hindu concept of multiple paths to the same divine reality differs vastly from monotheistic traditions. Indigenous spiritualities often see the divine in nature itself, while secular humanists might find the sacred in human connection and ethical action. This cultural variability raises uncomfortable questions. If God is universal, why do our experiences of the divine vary so dramatically? Are we all touching different parts of the same elephant, as the old parable suggests? Or are these differences evidence that our concepts of God are more human creation than divine revelation?
The tension between respecting tradition and seeking truth becomes particularly acute here. Many of us inherit our understanding of God from our families and communities. These inherited beliefs provide identity, belonging, and meaning. Yet honest inquiry sometimes leads us away from these comfortable certainties. This connects directly to how God shapes our identity. Whether we define ourselves as believers, non-believers, or something in between, our stance toward the divine becomes part of who we are. The atheist who was raised religious carries that history in their identity. The convert who finds faith later in life is shaped by both their journey toward and away from belief. Sometimes our relationship with God changes not because we choose it, but because life forces the change upon us. Tragedy might shake faith that once seemed unshakable. Unexpected grace might open hearts that thought they were closed to the divine. These shifts in belief can feel like losing or finding ourselves all over again. Perhaps most challenging of all is what many call the silence of God. We live in what often feels like an unanswered universe. We pray, we seek signs, we look for meaning, and often we are met with what seems like cosmic indifference. The heavens don't part, voices don't boom from clouds, and our deepest questions echo back to us without clear response. Yet this silence might not be absence. Maybe it's space, room for us to grow, to interpret, to create meaning, rather than simply receive it. The silence forces us to become active participants in our relationship with the divine, rather than passive recipients of divine communication. Human interpretation becomes crucial here. We are meaning-making creatures, constantly reading significance into events, patterns, coincidences. When we experience what we call divine intervention or guidance, how much is God acting and how much is us interpreting? Perhaps the question itself misses the point. Maybe the meaning we create through interpretation is itself a form of divine collaboration. The silence also democratizes the divine experience. If God spoke clearly and unmistakably, there would be little room for different understandings, for personal relationship, for the kind of faith that requires courage. The silence preserves mystery, keeps the divine from becoming just another fact to be catalogued and filed away. As we sit with these questions tonight, perhaps the goal is not to resolve them, but to appreciate their depth. Our relationship with God, whether we believe or doubt or wonder, reflects our deepest human needs for meaning, connection, and transcendence. It reveals our capacity for both surrender and rebellion, for comfort and challenge, for tradition and innovation. The philosophical relationship between humans and God remains beautifully unresolved, inviting each generation to wrestle with these eternal questions anew. In that wrestling, in that ongoing conversation between the human and the divine, we might find not answers, but something even more valuable, a deeper understanding of what it means to be human in a universe that continues to surprise us with its mystery and wonder.
There's something deeply beautiful about standing at the edge of human understanding. where our minds reach their furthest point and suddenly encounter something vast and unknowable. This is where we begin our journey today, exploring one of philosophy's most profound texts, Humans and God, a philosophical relationship, specifically examining points 19 through 22 that reveal extraordinary insights about our deepest nature. Imagine for a moment that you're climbing a mountain of knowledge, using logic and reason as your tools. You ascend higher and higher, solving problems, understanding patterns, making sense of the world around you. Each step feels secure, each handhold reliable. You've learned to trust your analytical mind, to break down complex problems into manageable pieces, to find cause and effect in the chaos around you. But then, quite suddenly, you reach a point where your tools no longer work. The path becomes unclear, the terrain unfamiliar. Your compass spins wildly, your maps become useless. This is precisely what the ancient wisdom tells us. जहाँ तर्क रुकता है, वहाँ ईश्वर शुरू होता है. Where logic stops, there God begins. This isn't a failure of human thinking, but rather its most honest acknowledgement. We live in an age that often demands certainty, clear answers, and logical explanations for everything. Our smartphones can answer almost any factual question in seconds. Our scientific instruments can measure the distance to stars and the behavior of subatomic particles. Yet here, we discover something profoundly liberating. The recognition that some territories of existence lie beyond the reach of pure reasoning. God in this understanding isn't something we arrive at through logical proofs or scientific methods. Instead, God emerges precisely where these methods reach their natural boundaries, like a gentle mist that appears where the warm earth meets the cool morning air. But here's where the conversation takes a fascinating turn. The text reveals something that might surprise many of us. ईश्वर के बिना भी मूल्य संभव. Values are possible even without God. This insight gently challenges both traditional religious thinking and militant atheism. It suggests that we don't need divine commandments to know that kindness is beautiful, or that cruelty causes suffering. Humans, it suggests, possesses an extraordinary capacity to create meaning, establish values, and live purposeful lives entirely through their own agency. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most alive, most connected to something meaningful. Perhaps it was helping a stranger carry heavy bags up a flight of stairs, creating a painting that captured exactly what you felt inside, or simply sitting quietly with a loved one as the evening light faded. These experiences don't require divine validation to be profound. They emerge from our inherent human capacity to recognize and create significance in our existence. A mother's love for a child, an artist's dedication to their craft, a teacher's patience with struggling students. These values arise naturally from human consciousness itself. This leads us to one of the most revolutionary ideas in the text, moving beyond the tired debate between theism and atheism, towards what it calls honest unknowing. For centuries, humans have positioned themselves in opposing camps, believers versus non-believers, faithful versus skeptical. Families have split over these differences, wars have been fought, friendships have ended. But what if this entire framework misses something essential? The text suggests the true wisdom lies not in claiming certainty about God's existence or non-existence, but in embracing what we might call sacred uncertainty. This isn't intellectual weakness or philosophical confusion. Rather, it's the courage to acknowledge that some questions are more important than their answers, and some mysteries are meant to be lived rather than solved. It's like standing before a vast ocean at sunset. You don't need to understand the physics of light refraction to be moved by the beauty before you. Consider how this changes everything. Instead of defending positions or attacking opposing views, we can rest in the profound honesty of not knowing. This doesn't mean abandoning inquiry or becoming passive.
Instead, it means approaching the deepest questions of existence with humility, wonder, and openness. It means saying, I don't know, and that's okay. Let me keep exploring with an open heart. The text then offers us a stunning insight that reframes our entire understanding. ईश्वर मनुष्य की कहानी है और मनुष्य ईश्वर की समस्या. God is humanity's story and humanity is God's problem. This beautiful paradox suggests that our concepts of the divine are fundamentally human creations, narratives we tell ourselves to make sense of existence. Each culture has woven stories about the sacred, each reflecting their particular hopes, fears, and understanding of life's mysteries. Yet simultaneously, human consciousness itself presents a kind of challenge or puzzle to any divine understanding. What does this mean for how we live? It means recognizing that when we speak of God, we're often speaking about our deepest hopes, fears, and aspirations. God becomes Vastavikta ka naam, the name for reality itself, or Chetana ka roop, a form of consciousness, or perhaps Manav Bhay or Asha ka pratibimb, a reflection of human fear and hope. When someone prays for strength during illness, they're not just asking an external being for help. They're accessing their own deepest resources through the language of the sacred. This isn't diminishing the significance of God talk, but rather revealing its true power. When we understand that our concepts of the divine emerge from our own consciousness, we begin to see how intimately connected the search for God is with the search for ourselves. The questions we ask about God reveal what we value most deeply about existence itself. And here we arrive at perhaps the most crucial insight that transforms everything we thought we knew about the spiritual search. The text reveals that humans ईश्वर को खोजते नहीं, वे खुद को खोजते हैं, और उस खोज में ईश्वर एक भाषा बन जाता है. Humans don't search for God. They search for themselves, and in that search, God becomes a language. What a profound reframing this is. Every prayer, every moment of wonder, every question about meaning and purpose isn't really about finding some external deity sitting on a distant throne. It's about discovering who we are, what we are capable of, and how we relate to the mystery of existence. God becomes the vocabulary we use to explore our deepest nature, the grammar of our most profound conversations with ourselves.
The relationship between God and humanity, the text concludes, isn't like that between sky and earth, distant, hierarchical, separate. Instead, it's prashn aur uttar ki चाह का है, a relationship of yearning for questions and answers. This yearning, this deep hunger for understanding and connection is identified as Manav Chetana ki sabse gehri pehchan, the deepest characteristic of human consciousness. Think about this yearning in your own life. It's what makes you pause when you see a beautiful sunset and feel something stirring inside you that has no name. It's what makes you wonder about your purpose when you're lying awake at night. It's what makes you reach out to connect with others, to love, to create, to search for meaning even in the midst of suffering. As we conclude this exploration, we are left not with answers but with a transformed understanding of the questions themselves. The search for God reveals itself as the search for self, conducted in the language of the sacred. And perhaps that's exactly as it should be, not a destination to reach, but a conversation to continue, not a problem to solve, but a mystery to live. In this gentle recognition, we find not the end of wonder, but its true beginning. The questions remain as beautiful and essential as ever. And in asking them, we discover not just what we seek, but who we are in the seeking itself.